What up, peeps? So I saw Spider-Man No Way Home, and it was good. And I'll even go as far to say that this was the best of the Holland trilogy, better than the Garfield double feature, and better than the third Raimi outing. Now, it's not perfect. It does unfortunately struggle to deviate from the other Disney Marvel films in terms of filmmaking and story structure. The film score is still not as good as it could have been. The film is overall standardly shot as I expected it would be, and the film still suffers from poor execution in its humor. Let me see if I can listen to some of the dialogue.
Octavius.
Wait, no, seriously, what's your actual name?
Really? They did that too? They did that here too?
Otto Octavius.
Okay, laugh. Everybody's supposed to laugh. I honestly can safely say I hardly laughed for about 88% of the movie. The jokes in this film are just so forceful sometimes, and it just comes off more cringy than anything. And I still don't care much for the Ned character. I just find him to be annoying, and how they tried to expand his role in the story is kind of weird and random. Zendaya as MJ was probably the most invested I've been in her in this whole trilogy, and this is probably her best performance in this trilogy also. Tom Holland, as expected, did very well, bringing his own interpretation of Spider-Man. And while he does get a little ADHD sometimes, the essence of Spider-Man's character was still there, and he gave it his all, so props to him. Doctor Strange is still my favorite Marvel character, and this movie can still confirm that. He provided some excellent sequences that involve manipulating the environment, and I love how Spider-Man sort of interacted with it and countered those manipulative environment parts, and it made sense. Their chemistry overall played out better than I expected, and I kind of wish there was more of it. Maybe I'm overreaching for more, but Peter and Strange played off each other so well, and I enjoyed it. The action ranged from decent to very well done. It's still mostly CGI and special effects, but they were fairly utilized, and nothing really impressed me to a high degree though. That being said, there's actually a fight scene near the end of the second act that is one of my favorites of any of these new Spider-Man films. It takes advantage of the compartmentalized environment, and it adds some brutality to the fight, and it was less about CGI effects and just two characters duking it out with pure rawness. It stood out so much from many of the other action scenes in this movie and in this trilogy that if I could watch it again, I definitely would appreciate it more. Now I'm going to minorly spoil this movie, so you already know what to do if you haven't seen the movie. Skip. The plot in a general sense was just okay. It wasn't amazing. It was mainly attributed to getting to what we all figured out this was all building up to. I predicted the plot would go in ways it obviously went. A lot of the plot was accelerated by the use of magic, so it doesn't feel exactly cheap, but without the presence of Strange, I doubt this movie would progress the way it did. And yeah, the not Sinister Six are in this movie, and they were implemented pretty well, and I might even add subversively. Their interactions were solid, and at times they were better here than they were in their previous movies. And this mostly goes for Electro, who definitely was a lot more fun to watch here than he was in his last outing. And he didn't have that stupid blue look that made no sense. Even though I do love the black outfit that he wore, he was less mopey and senselessly emotional and more tongue-in-cheek and charismatic, almost like Fox injected a lot of his own personality in the character. Alfred Molina was enjoyable, and I might be biased because he's one of my favorite actors, and even though I did predict it, his participation in teaming up with Spider-Man was fairly enjoyable, and their chemistry was on point. William Dafoe killed it, and I appreciate the nod to the Goblin's OG outfit from the comics without it looking silly. He was my second favorite aspect of the movie, and like I said before, his one-on-one fight with Peter in the building was an absolute highlight. Lizard and Sandman might have had the worst treatment. Lizard was just there, and I love how careless the characters were by putting him in a freaking truck and expecting him not to break out after he said to Peter, and I'm paraphrasing here, "If you try to help the others, there will be consequences." And I was like, why would you guys put him in the truck distances away from you outside of the building? It was silly and made Lizard just less special and just more of a plot device. Sandman was inconsistent and as poorly written as he was in Spider-Man 3, unfortunately. Much like Spider-Man 3, he jumps back and forth between morality. He brings up his daughter while still being a villain, and there's a scene where I knew they inserted footage from Thomas Hayden Church in Spider-Man 3 into the film, and my parents didn't believe me when I told them this, but I have the article right there where Church only lended his voice, which is why Sandman chose to be Sand all the time instead of his normal body until the end of the movie. I knew it looked cheap when he revealed his human form. Thomas Hayden Church was just being a lazy boy. And yes, all three Spider-Men are in this film, and it's pretty awesome. I do feel Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man could have had a little more anticipation, but his appearance was still nostalgic and satisfying as well as Garfield's. Once all three interacted, the movie just took off. The way they all interacted with each other not only gave us different perspectives of Peter Parker in general, but they also shared a lot of their experiences that we saw in their films and implemented those into the themes in this film to develop this Parker. Not that the theme was all that special, but with age comes experience, and it felt like the passing of information, wisdom, and knowledge to the next generation, and how they all worked together in the final action scene was definitely a joy to watch. It makes me wish they were in the movie just a little more than when they were just in the third act, but they were still given a lot to do and they never felt like they were wasted. The climactic action scene was by far an improvement over the Avengers Endgame climax, and if you want to talk about construction site climactic battles, this one definitely trumps the one in Spider-Man 3. I would put this one slightly above the Iron Man 3 climax in terms of creativity and execution. The ending is surprising and very heartfelt, and it really makes me interested in where they're going to go with this. Hopefully they don't undo what they did with this one, because I thought it was a good ending. Overall, this one was good. A very satisfying outing that gave the fans exactly what they wanted. As much Spider-Man as you could pack in a sizable runtime, followed with a fairly fast pace that made me forget that this movie was actually 2.5 hours. And I'm giving it a 3.5 out of 5 stars. Alright peeps, peace out and love y'all. See you on the flip side.